Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. In this podcast, we're going to finish off Article 690, Photovoltaic Systems of the National Electrical Code. That's the NEC. That's not the National Electric Code, it's the National Electrical Code. Electrical, not electric. And I'm saying that because when I first learned it, I learned it as the National Electric Code, and people say that all the time. Just being nitpicky there. Anyway, another thing that we're doing right now, as we are releasing this podcast, we are releasing a 2023 National Electrical Code course that you can find at HeatSpring. Just go to heatspring.com/Sean, that's SEAN, and you can find it there. You can also find a lot of neat stuff, including that link at Solar, SEAN, that's solarsean.com. And you know what? You want to know a little secret? nabcep.com was for sale and I bought it. So if you go to nabcep.com instead of the NABCEP website, which is nabcep.org, it takes you to my website. Isn't that cool? And I do have a link to NABCEP on the homepage of solarsean.com. So in case somebody ends up at the wrong place, they can still find NABCEP from there. NABCEP is cool. I'm teaching the PV Associate class at the NABCEP conference, which is going to be in March in Raleigh, North Carolina. But in the meantime, you got to sign up for that 2023 National Electrical Code course with Sean White, that's me, and Bill Brooks, that's not me, and it will be a lot of fun. We put more time into putting that 2023 National Electrical Code course together than any course I ever put together with HeatSpring. We spliced together things from all different places, all the best stuff, and we have a team working on that course. Yes, they're still working on it because we haven't released this podcast yet. Our team includes Brittany, South, Nix, and James, and we work hard. I'm working so hard, I'm recording this at 4 in the morning. And I just finished recording Article 625, Electric Vehicle Power Transfer Equipment, which is so exciting. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to do a reading from Chapter 7 of PV and the NEC. Make sure to get that book, PV and the NEC, 3rd edition by Sean White and Bill Brooks, based on the 2023 National Electrical Code. And this is going to cover the end of Article 690, which is 690 Part 6. That's Roman numeral VI, and the name of the chapter is Source Connections plus Marking and Labeling Summary. We're not going to do the marking and labeling summary in this podcast because that's pretty visual. It's pretty neat though. When you go to the book or to the course, you can see a page that has just about every different label that you could have, and then it has an arrows pointing to the labels with all the different page numbers of where you would find out everything about that label. So it's a single page that tells you about every possible label you might use for a PV system or an energy storage system. And Part 6 of Article 690 in the 2023 NEC is not that long. So here goes the reading. In the 2023 NEC, there was a lot of rearrangement towards the end of Article 690, and the 2020 NEC version of this chapter in PV and the NEC covered 690 Part 6, Marking, 690 Part 7, Connection to Other Sources, 690 Part 8, Energy Storage Systems, and other material no longer in 690 as of the 2017 NEC. Bill and his Codemaking Panel 4 friends, that's Codemaking Panel 4, the people that do Article 690 and some other articles, him and his friends were busy consolidating and rearranging for the 2023 National Electrical Code, and now we are left with just one short Part 6 to finish off 690. Want to hear something funny too? Somebody pointed out that on the Kindle version of this book, there was some typos, like multiple, and instead of Part 6, they put Fart 6. Ha ha ha. We thought that was kind of funny, and the publisher was a bit embarrassed. Maybe they fixed that fart. 2023 NEC 690 Part 6 Source Connections. This reduction of parts does not mean that all of the other requirements that were in this chapter are gone. They just moved things and got rid of the redundancies and irrelevancies. For instance, marking requirements for the rapid shutdown sign were moved to 690.12 rapid shutdown. Some of the marking requirements disappeared since they were not saving lives and property, which the NEC is for. Other marking requirements did not need to be in the NEC since things like AC PV module specifications are already required to be on the backs of the AC PV modules according to the UL listing. What we have decided to do to keep this chapter long enough to be a chapter and to help you have a single place to go for all of your marking and labeling requirements is to include marking and labeling in this chapter beginning on page 155. Many of these requirements are in other places in this book. However, people like having a single place to go for all of these requirements. Outline of 690 Part 6 Source Connections. In the 2020 NEC, we had Part 4 Marking and Part 7 Connections to Other Sources. So here we are with Part 6 2023 NEC. We have 690.56 Identification of Power Sources, which was formerly 690.56 Part 6 Marking. Then we have 690.59 Connection to Other Sources, formerly 690.59 Part 7 Connection to Other Sources. And last but not least, we have 690.72 Self-Regulated PV Charge Control, formerly in Part 7 Energy Storage Systems. And this includes 690.72.1 PV source circuit matches current and voltage of battery cells, and 690.72.2 1 hour is less than 3% of the charge requirement. Now we're going into 690.56 Identification of Power Sources. In the 2023 NEC, all 690.56 does is send you to 705.10 Identification of Power Sources. To abbreviate here, power sources need labeling to show location and to say, caution, multiple power sources. That was in caps, by the way. A new 2023 NEC thing is we need to leave a phone number. For details, go to page 195. OMG, what's the number for 911? Sorry, blonde runs in the family. Yes, our book has jokes in it. Once we got a bad review because somebody didn't like our jokes. Seriousness, God. Okay, here's a text box. With PV systems, energy storage systems, and the grid, we can have power pushing in all directions. Therefore, it is prudent to identify what is going on for those who will be puzzled in the future. As the future happens, we will see more things connected, and with energy management systems, aka power control systems, we will discover that more things will be networked to work in harmony for a better grid experience. 690.59 Connection to Other Sources is very brief and sends us to Article 705 Parts 1 and 2. 705 Part 1 General, that's most of 705, and 705 Part 2 Microgrid Systems, about 1 page of 705 to the end. And we cover this in a different place in this book. Note that Article 712 Direct Current Microgrids was removed in the 2023 NEC and is included in 705 Part 2. The majority of Article 705, including the interconnection requirements in 705.11, 705.12, and 705.13, is in Part 1 of 705. See page 196. 690.72 Self-Regulated PV Charge Control. Self-regulated PV systems have the benefit of not needing a charge controller, but have the drawback of not being able to work at the optimal part of the IV curve. These systems are often designed so they will operate towards the VOC, that's open circuit voltage, end of the IV curve, so that an overcharge will not occur, or they can be designed so that the PV is undersized relative to the battery, yet so is the load. With the advent of less expensive and more reliable PV electronics, self-regulating systems are less common. An example often used for a self-regulating system is a buoy in the ocean with 35 solar cells charging a 12-volt battery to operate a flashing light that takes very little energy. Another example is my small solar module that used to keep my old internal combustion engine, that's ICE car battery, topped off when I went away for extended periods of time. No charge controller is needed. 690.72 says a PV source circuit shall be considered to comply with the requirements for charge control of a battery without the use of separate charge control equipment if the circuit meets both of the following. And both of the following is 690.72.1 and 690.72.2. 690.72.1 matching PV to the battery. The voltage of the PV should match the voltage of the battery or batteries, paying attention to the IV curve. 690.72.2 no greater than 3% per hour. The current of the PV should not overcharge the battery or batteries, and we draw the line at no greater than 3% per hour of battery capacity, or as recommended by battery manufacturer. Self-regulating systems. With self-regulating PV charge control, it is like we have a PV source circuit that is a silicon-based charge controller using silicon to control things when it is not a computer chip. Self-regulating systems are designed for batteries that can take a float charge, and lithium-ion batteries cannot take a float charge since they are very efficient and do not self-discharge much at all. Sean recommends noting this in the NEC or removing 690.72, since if someone designed a self-regulating system to charge 3% of battery capacity in an hour with lithium-ion batteries, it could be a fire hazard. Lithium-ion batteries need a battery management system, BMS, to manage the charge, so they would not be self-regulating with a BMS by definition. The idea of PV self-regulation is still creative and very neat. We do not recommend self-regulating charge control of lithium batteries on Boeing 787s. Skyfire is not cool. This is the end of 690. And so that pretty much wraps it up for Article 690. The next thing that comes after 690 is Article 691, which is called Large-Scale Photovoltaic PV Electric Supply Stations. And that's really cool. And it means that we don't have to follow all of the stuff in Article 690 if we have a real big PV system that's at least 5 megawatts on the AC side. It's not supplying loads. It's not on a building. We don't have to do stuff like DC arc fault protection. What a nuisance. But it's safe because it's behind a fence. And the book also gets into energy storage systems, Article 706, Article 480, all kinds of stuff. So it's pretty cool. You ought to get it. Just go to solarsean.com, go halfway down the home page, and you can see links where you can click on them and get all different books. You got the 2017 NEC version, 2020, and the 2023 National Electrical Code version of PV and the NEC. So thanks for listening to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. To find out more, go to solarsean, that's solarsean.com.